Just before this episode, I wanted to tell you you can get more from Never a Truer Word by subscribing on Spotify. If you are a Spotify listener, and 90% of you are according to the stats, then you can subscribe to get early access to the weekly episodes, video episodes so you can follow along with the statements, exclusive subscriber episodes, and a chance to leave comments for future episodes too. Go to the Spotify page for Never a Truer Word and press subscribe or unlock. And if you do decide to subscribe, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Welcome to Never a Truer Word, where we look at the words that people choose to use to see if they're telling the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, and give you some tips to better understand what it is that people are saying in the world all around you. And we're going to look at the Summer Wells case this episode. As I record this in June 2024, it's 3 years to the day that Summer Wells went missing from her Tennessee home, and we're going to look at the words of her parents, Don and Candus, in an interview that was given about 2 weeks after she went missing. My thinking behind that is that the more recent it is, the less time there is to polish any story that is being told, the more recent and raw events are, then the more that we can get from the statements that they use. So what do we want to watch out for when we're talking about missing people and people talking about missing people, to see if there's any deception, to see if they know more about this missing person case than they're letting on? Look at the tenses they use. I say this all the time in missing people. Are they referring to the missing person in the present tense because they think that person is still alive and out there somewhere? Or have they gone a bit more to the past tense, which might infer they think that that person is gone forever? That doesn't necessarily mean they're guilty if they use past tense, but it shows their state of mind along towards the person that is missing. In storytelling, look for hidden time or events, jumps in time, or things that don't quite make sense. Are they telling a full and frank story, or are they glossing over or jumping over some events that happened? And what concern do they show? Because if you're missing someone that's very close to you, your concern is going to be for that person. If you are guilty or have some guilty knowledge about that missing person, your concern might well be more towards yourself at that moment. So let's listen to Don and to Candus speak.
I know she didn't walk away from this property by herself or off this yard by her swing. I feel in my heart that somebody has came up here and took her, has lured her away from here. Me and my mother and her were planting flowers, and we went in after we got done washing our hands, and she got a piece of candy from Grandma, and she wanted to go back over and see her brothers. And I said, okay. And I walked her all the way over to the porch, and I watched her walk into the kitchen where the boys were watching TV. And I told the boys, I said, watch Summer, I'll be back. And within 2 minutes I came back, and I asked the boys where their sister was, and they said, she went downstairs, Mom, to play with her toys in the playroom. I said, okay. And I yelled downstairs for her a couple times, and I didn't get no answer, which was unusual because usually she always answers me. And so I went down there to check, and she was nowhere in sight. She was just gone.
Okay, so there's Candus describing when Summer disappeared. Sadly, we don't get to hear the questions that are asked in this interview, because that would help us, inform us as to where the answers were coming from, where they were informed. But I think somewhere along there, she was asked, tell us the story of when you knew Summer had disappeared. And her story starts at the point of, me and my mother were planting flowers. Now, that is really interesting. Where we start a story is really interesting. It shows when things started to happen in the mind of the person telling the story. And for her, for some reason, the start of the story about Summer disappearing is something that happened before Summer went missing. She could have started this story when she went in the house, Summer wasn't in the kitchen, and then wasn't downstairs when she realised Summer was not there. But she starts telling the story about when Summer was there. For some reason, we don't know what. Candus starts by saying, I know she didn't walk away from this property by herself or off this yard by her swing. I feel in my heart that somebody has come up here and took her and lured her away from here. Me and my mother and her were planting flowers. Right. So I know she didn't walk away from this property. That's very definite. I know she didn't walk away from this property. How does she know that for certain? I find that very hard to picture how you could know that someone didn't walk off this property without having some sort of helicopter overview of the property at time. And then she tells us what she thinks has happened, and she doesn't know it this time. She feels it in her heart. Very different from knowing. She just senses it, or her instinct tells her, I feel it in my heart. And what does she feel in my heart? That somebody has come up here and took her. So somebody has come up to their house and taken Summer away. Very direct. But then she says this person lured her away from here, which is different from taking her. Taking her is, in actual definite terms, coming, getting the person, grabbing hold of them or taking hold of them, taking control of them and removing them. Luring them is different from taking them. Luring can be done from a long way away. If you had the means and electronic means to make that happen, you could lure someone from thousands of miles away. I'm not saying that's what happened in this case, but lured doesn't suggest taking them from here. It suggests tempting her away from here. Actually, when you lure someone, they go under their own steam, don't they? So which is it? Was someone take her or did someone lure her? Would like to point out, this is a story about past events, and Candice tells it in past tense. We went in, she washed her hands, she got a piece of candy, she wanted to go back over to see her brothers. I walked her all the way and I watched her walk into the kitchen. So this is told in past tense, something that we would expect. So an indication these events could have happened, and they really could have happened. Did they happen just before Summer went missing? I don't know, but they are perfectly in past tense. Candice is very keen to point out what a good mother and how wholesome this whole existence was, isn't she? Washed her hands after picking flowers. Look, I'm a good mum, and I made sure that after picking the flowers, she washed her hands. Then she got a piece of candy from Grandma. Again, it's that wholesome thing that she wants to get across here. And then I walked her all the way over to the porch. So I was caring for her. I was protecting her. I was walking her all the way over to the porch. Why is it important for Candice to get across to us what a good mother she is, what a good caring mother she is, how wholesome this existence was about planting flowers, washing hands, getting a piece of candy, and me walking her all the way over to her porch? One of the reasons that could be, and I suspect strongly in this case, is that she was not a good mum. It was not a wholesome existence, but she wants to persuade us that Summer was very happy and had this idyllic home life. She says that Summer wanted to go back over to see her brothers, but she didn't say ever that Summer was there in the first place. This doesn't make her a liar or a murderer or anything like that. I'm just interested in going back over. She doesn't talk about when she was over the first time with her brothers. The story continues, and I watched her walk into the kitchen where the boys were watching TV, and I told the boys, I said, watch Summer, I'll be back. Okay, so I watched her walk into the kitchen. So to watch someone walk, you stay where you are and you watch them walk into the kitchen. And in my head here, this is Summer walking away from Candice into the kitchen where the boys were watching TV. And then she says, and I told the boys, I said, watch Summer. Now, how could she tell the boys if she watched Summer walk away from her towards her brother? We don't know the distance, but it must have been some distance for her to watch her walk into the kitchen. So did she shout at the boys, or did she follow Summer in to be able to tell them and rather than shout at them? It's interesting. There's something not quite adding up there, that she stood still and watched Summer walk into the kitchen where the boys were, and then she told the boys to watch Summer. Why that? What's missing in this part of the story as well, because this is a description of what happened when Summer went missing. So what is missing from this story? She says, I'll watch Summer, I'll be back, and within 2 minutes I came back. Well, why and where did you go? You don't tell us. Why not? Why are you jumping over this fact? And again, back within 2 minutes. I'm a very good mum. I was only 2 minutes away from attending to Summer, and this bad thing happened in those just mere 2 minutes. What else is missing? Well, she doesn't say she noticed Summer was missing, does she? She says, I'll be back within 2 minutes. I came back and I asked the boys where their sister was, but she doesn't say why. She doesn't say Summer wasn't there, so I asked the boys where their sister was. She doesn't say that she noticed Summer wasn't with the boys. And she doesn't say why she yelled at Summer either. So the boy said she went downstairs, Mom, to play with her toys in the playroom. I said okay, and I yelled downstairs for her a couple of times. She doesn't say what the purpose of that yelling is. Did she want her to do something else? Did she want her to come upstairs away from her toys? We don't know. She doesn't give any reason as to why she yelled at her downstairs. This is a crazy bit. And then didn't get no answer, which was unusual because usually she always answers me. And then didn't get no answer, which was unusual because usually she always answers me. So we have something being unusual. No answer was unusual because usually, so if something is unusual, then the opposite thing happens to usual. Usually she always answers me. Not usually she answers me. Usually she always answers me. It's very confused. Why does she not have authentic words to say what was going on in her head? I yelled and she didn't answer, so I got worried. Or I yelled, she didn't answer, and she always answers, so I got worried. Another kind of discrepancy here is that the boys said that Summer went downstairs, Mom, to play with her toys in the playroom, but we've been told previously that Summer wanted to go back over and see her brothers. So she, in the telling of this, she wanted to go back over and see her brothers, but as soon, in this 2 minutes that she'd seen her brothers, i.e. clapped eyes on them, she went downstairs to play with her toys in the playroom. It almost takes those 2 minutes for Summer to tell her brothers that is what she is going to do and to go downstairs and do that. So that, to me, it doesn't quite stack up. Neither does her description. I went down to check and she was nowhere in sight. So that is very interesting. Not she wasn't there, she just wasn't to be seen, and then says she was just gone. And now there's got to be some time and some process between deciding that she's not in the playroom downstairs and deciding that she was gone, hasn't there? You know, you walked in, she's not there. Did you search further? Did you look absolutely everywhere? Did you look outside and realise that she was just gone? No, she was not in that playroom, so she concluded she was just gone. Not so sure about that. That's Candus's description of how Summer went missing, or how she knew Summer went missing, and I have lots and lots of questions about it. Let's hear some more from them.
I don't go on walks around here or runs because I'm scared of the bears and snakes and even the coyotes that are around here. Well, whoever has my daughter, I pray and hope that they have not harmed her and they bring her back to us safe and sound.
Go to the FBI, the police, and clear it up. I don't know, it seems kind of elusive.
It's really strange that I've never seen this truck, and I've never heard of it until just recently. But I wish they would come forward and explain themselves. And if you're not a suspect, at least come forward and say what you've seen.
Candy starts by saying, I don't go on walks around here or runs because I'm scared of the bears and snakes and even the coyotes around here. Now, I don't know the question that was asked around this, but what is the relevance to this, to Summer going missing? I don't know, but there is a theme throughout their words that's centered around home and proximity and closeness to that home. And this is Candice saying, I don't go away from here. I don't go on walks or runs because I'm scared of things that are out there. So I don't know the relevance of those words, but I do know that, again, this is this theme of home and closeness that is there. She speaks to whoever has my daughter, so she has no other thought in her head other than someone has her daughter. It's not that Summer walked away, got lost, even, fell, met an accident or anything like that, or worse, was abducted and something really bad happened to her. She seems quite convinced here that someone has my daughter, and she addresses that person, whoever has my daughter. Then Don chimes in for the first time. He says something that's a bit unclear, but he wants the FBI and the police and clear it up. Not find your daughter, Don, no. Not find Summer, who is missing, a 5-year-old girl. You just want things cleared up. That's really interesting, and that makes me look at you and go, why are you wanting something cleared up? And why are you talking about something being kind of elusive? Why is it not that you want your daughter back? Why is it not you want your daughter safe? Why do you want things cleared up? Why do you think it's elusive? Then we talk about this red truck. Candus says, it's really strange that I've never seen this truck and I've never heard of it until just recently. Why is that strange when you've just told us you never go for walks or runs? So this truck could be all around, but you do not go out, in your own words, Candus. So why would you think you would have seen or heard of this red truck until just recently? And I wish they could come forward and explain themselves. Why do you think they won't? Why do you wish they would? Why would you not like them to? And why do you want them to explain themselves, not clear this up? Like Don said, why? Again, is this not about finding Summer, but this is about clearing things up, things being elusive, and someone explaining themselves. She says, I mean, if you're not a suspect, at least come forward and say what you've seen. How does she know the person in the red truck has seen anything? But she seems quite definite that this person in the red truck should say what you've seen. We're only at the beginning, but so far I've got so many questions about the words that they're using, about the descriptions that they're using, where their priorities are at, and why they think certain things are quite conclusive here. If you're enjoying this, then please press the like button. It does help get this to more people. There is no marketing budget for Never a Truer Word, so every like returns some of the investment and lets this get out to more people. Sharing it as well with people who are interested in the Summer Wells story or missing persons in general is really, really helpful in getting the word out there as well. I'm always interested in your comments on the words that Don and Candus are using in this interview. So anything that you have to say, I'd be very interested in listening to. So if you can leave comments on this platform, please do, or get in touch on social media. All the links are in the show notes. And if you want to get more, if you want to get early access and bonus episodes, then on YouTube, become a member of the channel, or on Spotify, you can press the subscribe button and you will get a whole load of bonus features. Let's go back to Don and Candus.
She was a tomboy. I shaved my head. She wanted to have her head shaved like me and the boys did.
She tried to shave her head
She tried
in
to
the
shave her
back
head
and make
herself.
it, I think you can see it in some of the pictures, and it was getting out of control. So we decided to shave her head off and let it grow back long, and she shaved her head so she wouldn't feel bad, and but it didn't bother her at this point.
Well, once more, I'd like to know why they're talking about this. What question got them to this point? But why are they talking about this now? Who tried to shave the head? Don's not very clear on this. First of all, he says she tried to shave her head, and then she, and he corrects himself or restarts and says, we decided to shave her head, and then she shaved her head. I don't have a clear picture here of what happened with shaving this head at all. Was it Summer that tried to do it at age 5? That seems quite strange. Or we decided to shave her head. Well, he does say we, but he puts lots of she's in there as well. Who and why was this head shaved? Don says it didn't bother her. Well, why are you telling us that? Why are you telling us that this didn't bother her? Is it potentially because it did bother her? That's further strengthened by him saying at this point. So it didn't bother her at this point. Was there a point where the shaved head bothered her? I think that could be true. I look at this description. I really didn't like this. She tried to shave her head. The words shave her head, we know what that means. It is to shave the hair off your head. That's what shave your head means. And then we decided to shave her head off. Not shave her hair off, which is what you'd expect, but shave her head off. Now, removing someone's head, shaving someone's head off is very different from shaving their head, which means to remove the hair. Shave her head off is a bit more grisly, I think, and it could be a misspeak. He could have said head instead of hair, but it's very interesting that he talks in, frankly, quite fatalistic terms about Summer's head there. Here's some more from them.
Well, I knew right away that she was abducted. You know, I knew that right away, and that's what I told them from the beginning. But they have to go through their, I forget the word.
Investigation.
They have to do one step at a time, I guess. But I'm sorry that they had to spend so many man hours in these woods and everything. I've seen them limping and everything else, and I feel for them. But I just wish there was a way that neighbors could search neighbors' houses, and then if they're not willing, get a search warrant or something, but there's just no way you can search every single house, in the eastern United States or whatever. But I wish there was a way.
So here we have Don talking, and once more we have this certainty. Well, we have sort of certainty. He says, we knew, and then he stops, and he restarts by saying, I knew right away that she was abducted. Why the change from we to I? Candus has said that she feels she's been abducted. So why is he just talking for himself there? He goes to talk for the pair of them and then just goes to talk for himself. And again, there's no sense of how they knew. I knew right away she was abducted. I knew that right away. He doesn't say how he knew right away. He doesn't say whether it was just a sense, an intuition, or whether there was more to it, but he knew right away that she was abducted. And he talks about, I'm presuming he's talking about law enforcement here. That's what I told them from the beginning. It's important for him to say that from moment one, I knew she was abducted, and I have told them that from the beginning. I have been consistent with my story. Therefore, I cannot be lying. I cannot be trying to deceive you. Straight away, I told them from the beginning she had been abducted. I'm getting a lot of certainty from these guys that they feel that the Summer was abducted. Why is that? An interesting passage here. I'm sorry they've had to spend so many man hours in these woods and everything. I've seen them limping and everything else, and I feel for them. Now, that's a really strange way of feeling. There's no gratitude for these guys that are in the woods looking for Summer, which you would expect. Why are you sorry? To be sorry, you have some responsibility for what's happened. Or do you know for a fact that they're in these woods and they're not going to find anything and this is futile? Is that why you're sorry for them? But why are you not grateful that they are in the woods? I've seen them limping and everything else. I feel for him. Now, listen. So far in this interview, we've had no empathy for Summer's situation at all. It will come later, but before they've described any empathy, scare for Summer's situation, concern for Summer, because she's been abducted in their heads. They're telling us she's been abducted. He's got sympathy for these people searching for Summer in the woods. And then he goes on to this strange thing that he wishes there was a way neighbours could search neighbours' houses, without a search warrant or whatever. This theme of proximity coming through again, that they want to think that things are very close to them and that neighbours' houses may have the answers. Why is that? Is that because proximity and closeness is key to what happened to Summer? Or are they wanting to make sure the search is focused on a very close locale to where they are? I don't know, but I do know that they really are thinking very close to home.
Just thankful for the person or persons that's doing that. Out of love, trying to get information and trying to get her found. We thank them from the bottom of our hearts.
It means a lot.
And we thank everybody who's trying so hard and praying so hard. And she's an awesome young lady, and we just want her back.
Yeah.
Okay, so they're thankful to the person or persons that's doing all out of love and trying to get information, trying to get her found. I've got a sense there that they're separate from the search here, aren't they? They're really separating themselves out to the people that are doing what they can to get her found. They've separated themselves from the people that are trying to get information and trying to get her found. We do have some gratitude there, but what is that gratitude based on? Is it based on the fact that they are helping and trying to find Summer? Is it based on the fact they actually believe the story and they're going out there and looking for them? We do have present tense here, which is what you would expect if someone thinks that Summer is still alive. She's an awesome young lady, is said. So there's some present tense there from Don. I want to pull your attention, though, to this phrase, she's an awesome young lady. Now, that is a very valid way of referring to a child, a female child. A young lady is said quite often. But there is a theme that we are going to see develop as Don talks more about seeing Summer through a grown-up lens. She's not an awesome child or kid or daughter. She's an awesome young lady. Like I said, if someone uses the phrase young lady, there's no inference or nothing wrong with that. But I wanted to draw your attention to this Summer as an adult theme that Don has in his words. And it starts there for me with the phrase, she's an awesome young lady.
Yeah, there's always going to be haters, and it's always going to be that way in this world, and we just want to focus on the good friends and Christian people that are trying to help us and praying for us and praying for Summer. And we thank them from the bottom of our hearts, and that's the kind of people we try to relate with and socialize with. So we don't know anything about, no red truck, or we hardly know many of our neighbors, because we just try to be around good people. And we do have good people in this area. We found out since this has all happened. We got some real good neighbors and good folks everywhere. But
the most important thing is to bring Summer home safe.
So we start by talking about the haters, but then they just want to focus on the good friends. Not finding Summer, but the good friends is what they want to focus on, and the Christian people. And they've talked about praying, and they're talking about Christian people. And is this about them trying to show what good people they are? We're very good people. We're focused on the Christians, and we really like the praying that you're doing. So we could not have made bad things happen to Summer, because we love Christians and we love praying. Look at the order around the praying as well, which is that it is praying for, trying to help us, praying for us. Oh, and by the way, the missing person, praying for Summer. So they seem to be at the center of this. Is this the concern for us larger than concern for Summer? Randomly, in the middle of this, Don threw out that we don't know anything about, no red truck. I don't know the question that was asked, but I don't know why he mentioned this red truck again. But he was very clear that he wanted to get across to us that he knows nothing about this, no red truck. We learn a lot about their lives here, by the way, in these passages here. Don says that's what the kind of people we try to relate with and socialize with. We just try to be around good people. So he wants to get across to us that they relate and socialize with good people, but he uses the word try twice. We try to relate with and socialize with that kind of people. We just try to be around good people. So try implies failure. It's something you want to do, but you haven't succeeded in doing it yet. So I don't think they do hang around with good people at all. I think they hang around with a bad crowd. And like they said, we do have good people in this area. We found out since all this happened. So prior to this happening, he thought there were no good people in the area. But now he's saying we got some real good neighbours. So I think there was Don and Candus, I think they hang around with a bad crowd. I do not think they hang around with good people, but they want us to think that they hang with good people. But it's only since Summer's missing that they know that there are good people around there. Candus says the most important thing is bring Summer home safe. Here's some more from them.
I'm sorry that you feel this way about us, but we love our children with everything we have. We've never went without, thanks to Summer's daddy and my husband. He's always provided for us and has worked as much as he could and can and still is. And I'm sorry that you guys feel that way, but that's my baby, and nobody would ever treat her like that as long as I was around, ever.
This bit chilling. First of all, Candus refers to Summer's daddy and my husband. Now, I don't know too many of the details about this case. I don't like knowing too many of the details because then it means I'm not drawn or taken by bias or other information. I like to be looking only at the words someone says. But at this point, I thought, these are two different people, Summer's daddy and my husband. So I thought, is she married to Don and Summer has another dad? But I looked it up, and as far as I know, Summer's daddy and my husband are the same person. If you know better, please let me know in the comments or on social media. But for me, why is she referring to this one person as two different people? Summer's daddy and my husband. Once more, I don't know the question that got nobody would ever treat her like that as a comment. So I don't know what that is. But Candus says, Nobody would ever treat her like that. And then she qualifies it, as long as I was around. Does that mean that things were happening? That Summer was being treated like that, whatever that is, when Candus wasn't around? Well, that's exactly what her words are saying. When Candus was around, Summer was treated okay, but there was something different about the treatment of Summer when Candus was not around. That is what she is saying. That is what her words tell us.
She loves to dance. She would always want me. She says, "Daddy, hold my hand so I can twirl." And she would just like to twirl and twirl and twirl until my arm got tired, you know. I put out there that one of Summer's favorite songs was Godzilla, and they say, and they're jumping all over me about past tense was, well, I'm sorry about that. It's just.
She also liked the song by New Breed. It was called House, My House. She sung that a lot of times when I play it on the TV. She loved to dance.
She liked to think of herself as a princess, and and all that, like all young girls do. And
she loved Frozen. She loved to be that Elsa, and
I think she really loved to be in church because she felt a lot of love there. And I think you can't explain what that love is, but you feel it and you know it, when you're young. And she felt that there, and she loved everybody in that church, or she loves everybody in that church. I should rephrase that, because they'll tear that apart as past tense, and I apologize again for that. I hope she gets to come home, and I hope she gets to be with our church family again.
Our best friend in that church was Robin. She loved her to death.
Yeah, she looked up to women that were.
She come to that church, she went looking for Robin. That was her favorite person.
Any woman that was professional, that
was pretty, beautiful.
She looked up to those kind of women. She, they were the word I'm looking for, I can't think of it, but she looked up to them.
Wow. Did not like this passage at all. It starts fine with some present tense around Summer. She loves to dance. She says, "Daddy, hold my hand." But we also have some past tense. She would always want me. She would just like to twirl and twirl and twirl. So we've got a real mixture of tenses there. And Don is aware of his tense use. He speaks about it later on. This is Don talking here, and he talks about how she loves to dance. And once more, I feel we have Don talking about Summer in a grown-up lens, or doing grown-up things. Now, I know children dance. Absolutely fine that children dance. But unlike playing on a swing, and Candus mentioned Summer's swing earlier, dancing is not something that we grow out of. We still do, especially women, a lot of dancing as we grow up and become an adult. And then he talks about, and he's very different from Candus here, he talks about physical relation with Summer, as in that they touched. So, "Daddy, hold my hand," and my arm got tired. Candus doesn't ever speak in any way about anything physical with Summer, like giving her a hug, holding her hand when they walked across to go and see her brothers. Candus doesn't speak in those terms at all, but Don does talk in a physical way. So, "Daddy, hold my hand," and she'd twirl and twirl and twirl until my arm got tired. Don goes on to talk about music. In fact, they both go on to talk about music, and they want to say how much Summer liked singing. Again, singing, one of those things we do as children, but we still carry on singing when we're adults as well. So Don is there talking about one of these things again, Summer doing grown-up things. But I don't think this girl had much of a life at all, because he wants to tell us what one of Summer's favourite songs was, but he starts off by leaking. He says one of Summer's favourite songs was Godzilla. So he was going to say one of Candus's favourite songs was Godzilla, and Summer sang that. But he realises that just sounds a little bit crappy, and so he changes it to being one of Summer's favourite songs. And then we have Candus talking about that she liked a song by New Breed, and she sung that a lot of times when I play it on the TV, i.e. It was one of Candus's favourite songs as well. I played it a lot on TV and Summer sang it. There's no sense there of any nursery rhymes, even any hymns or pop songs that Summer liked on her own. It's only Summer enjoyed things that her parents were doing. Again, I get a feeling that these parents were neglectful and not really that into their children. We have past tense again. One of her favourite songs was Godzilla, and he acknowledges it by saying, they're jumping all over me about past tense. So after he's brought up, we should talk about Summer in present tense, is basically what he's saying there. What does Candus do? Talks about Summer in the past tense. She liked the song by New Breed. It was called House. She loved to dance. So much past tense about a person that they are saying is being abducted and they think is still alive. We then have this really interesting section on Frozen, and there's no depth to this, not whatsoever. She loved Frozen. Elsa Land. There's no depth to it whatsoever. Past tense. She liked to think of herself as a princess. She loved Frozen. She loved to be that. And once more, we've got Dawn talking about Summer in an adult's world. She used to think of herself as a princess, and this is something young girls quite naturally do, is the princess games. But a princess is a grown-up again. And this is one of the first role-playing things that young girls do to role-play being grown-ups, is it may well be a princess, a grown-up princess that they do when they are role-playing. So once more, we've got Dawn talking about Summer in this adult world. And then we get onto the section about church. Once more, past tense. She really loved to be in church. She felt a lot of love. She felt that there. She loved everybody in the church. So loads and loads of past tense. And Don comes out and says, oh, I should rephrase that because they'll tear it apart as past tense. Yeah, Don, we will. And once he said that, he explains that I'm not using past tense because I think she's dead. I apologise for that again. I hope she gets to come home again. I hope she gets to be with her church family again. So he's kind of saying, oh, if you're going to criticise me for using past tense, I had better say I think she is still alive, or I hope that she is still alive. Repetition of church. So much talk of the church here. Again, is this to show what good Christian people they are, that they talk a lot about church and the church family. Dawn says she felt a lot of love there. That word there, did she not feel a lot of love anywhere else? From the description I have so far of her home life, potentially she did not feel a lot of love at home, and church was maybe, if they went, I don't even know if they went, are they just using this as some sort of, please protect us because we're good Christian church-going people? I don't know. And then this is really interesting. When he's talking about his hope that Summer comes home again, he adds a complication to it. It's not that he hopes that she comes home and I hope that she can be with her church family again. He uses the word gets. I hope she gets to come home and I hope she gets to be with her church family again, as if there's a complication there, that something has got to happen so that she can get to come home and she can get to be with her church family again. The hope is not just she comes home, and the hope is not just she's with her church family again. It's that this complication is resolved so that she would get to come home, that something is undone or something is done that would enable her to come home and be with her church family again. We have more past tense in the next section about Robin. So her best friend at church was Robin. She loved her to death and she looked up to her. She looked up to those kind of women. She looked up to them. Candice, what a strange thing. As well as shaving the head off, Robin, she loved her to death. Interesting choice of words to use when no one knows what has happened to your 5-year-old child, that she loved her to death. It's not proof of anything, but it's a very grim wording to use when it must be in your head right now. Is my child alive or dead? She loved her to death. And once more, you may well have spotted it. Dawn putting Summer in this adult world. Any woman that was professional, he says, Candy says was pretty, but he wants to stick up to the professional. She looked up to those kind of women. She knows, whoa. She looked up to professional women. Again, Dawn's description of Summer's life is through this adult lens. Summer, the adult. We're going to see more of it here.
She'd give them a run for their money every day. She'd give them a run for their money. And there was times, you know, we'd be, at our boys like, don't do this and don't do that. And next thing you know, the stick would come up and just whop them, and it'd be like, Summer, don't do that.
Summer was the boss of the family.
Yeah,
She
typical girl.
When they get out of line, she'd put them in line.
She'd do her best.
She loved to play in the mud and the water and swing on her swing and enjoy dirt.
When I run the lawnmower around, she would run behind me. When the boys run their bikes around, she, as fast as that little bike could go, she would be behind them running and keeping up with them, no problem. She loved to run. She just loved to run, and she could pull herself up on that swing, her full body weight with her 2 hands, and she could do that. None of the other boys can do that, but she can.
Was she in school yet?
No, she's going this year.
This was supposed to be her first year.
She's been. We did all the what?
I took care of everything.
Yeah.
I had her already took on all of her shots and registered in the school ready for this year.
Yeah.
So we've just got more of the same themes all over again. We've got Summer, the adult here again, the grown-up parenting the 2 boys and telling them off, and Summer being the boss of the family. It's just a theme that runs through Don's words that I really am not happy with, which is at odds with Candus here. She would love to play in the mud and the water and swinging on her swing and enjoyed dirt. Now, the repetition of mud and dirt is a bit problematic for me, but what we have here is Candus talking about a kid doing kids things, playing in the mud, playing in the water, swinging on a swing, enjoying dirt, things that we grow out of as we become adults, whereas he's either talking about the adult world or things that children do that adults continue to do. And look, here's more from him talking about Summer in the adult world. This is not playing in the mud and the water, it's when I was running the lawnmower around. So he just does not seem to be able to relate to a child on a child's level at all. It is how they do or react to grown-up things, such as when he's running the lawnmower around. And is this a real story? Because he says she would run behind me when the boys run their bikes around, and then it changes to she would be behind them running. So was Summer behind you while you were doing the lawnmower? Or would you be behind the brothers? Not sure that's a real story. And he talks about her again, about her physicalness, about her strength. She could pull herself up on that swing with her full body weight and her 2 hands. She can do that. None of the other boys can do that, but she can. So again, it's talking about her in a physical sense. Here it's her physical prowess. Mention again, and this is the second time that he's mentioned her hands. So her hands came into the dancing. Daddy, hold my hand. Here, she can pull herself up with her 2 hands. Then there's this whole section about school and was she at school yet? And here we have Candice telling us how good a mother she is once more. I take care of everything. I had already took her for all of her shots and registered for the school all ready for this year. She's showing us what a great mum she is. I don't think that was true. I think that's why it's important for her to get that across to us.
I just never expected for anyone to get a hold of my heart like she has, because I try to guard my heart as much as I can, but she holds my heart in her little hands. And I love her with all my heart. I'd do anything to have her back.
So Don talking once more in a physical way. She's got hold of my heart as a physical action. She holds my heart in her little hands. Come up again. 3rd time in this quite short interview that he's mentioned Summer's hands. I don't know what it indicates, but for some reason, Summer's hands are something he thinks worth mentioning a lot, or something that he has high in his head. Summer's hands certainly have some interest to him. He does talk here in the present tense, in this emotional sense. She got hold of my heart like she has, present tense, and she holds my heart in her little hands, and I'd do anything to have her back. So he's talking about her here in the present tense.
If there's any way, if you can find it in your heart to please release her somehow, I don't know how you might do that, I mean, 'cause you're probably scared of going to prison for the rest of your life and everything else, I'm sure. But please find it in your heart, have mercy, and find a way of letting her go, and where we can get her back. And just please have mercy on her, and you know, and us, and her brothers. And she's such a loving, good spirit. Please don't hurt her. Please let her come home. My biggest fear is, you know, her being tormented or locked in a dungeon or basement or something, because she loved to be outside all the time. That was her, unfortunately, her downfall. 'Cause a lot of times the boys would be inside and we'd be like, "Where's Summer? Why'd you leave her out there alone? You know, go get Summer now." You know, and that's happened over and over again. And we'd come out and she would always be close by, but we was always coming up. She had to be outside. She was an outdoor person. And
She loved to be outside.
Yep. And I'm so afraid that she's locked away. She's such a loving heart and everything, and I'm afraid that she won't be able to, locked away where she can't be outside or play with a puppy or anything, love nature, and that's my greatest fear, that she's not able to do any of these things anymore, or that she could possibly, I don't want to think she's dead, but it's a possibility.
This is a horrible, horrible section. The first thing I want to zone in is a restart. So Don starts to say something, then corrects himself or states it in a different way. He says, "I'm." So he's going to talk about himself there. He starts saying, "I'm," and then he starts again by talking about you. "You're." So he says, "You're probably scared of going to prison for the rest of your life." Now, we don't know what he was going to say after "I'm," but if he only changed the pronoun from "I'm" to "you," he would have been saying, "I'm probably scared of going to prison for the rest of my life." Was he scared of going to prison? I believe he was on probation and so on, and maybe he was scared of going to prison. But it looks to me like potentially in here, at the time of this interview, he was scared of going to prison. Once more, we have Summer in their heads, or in Don's head certainly, very firmly, someone has Summer. But look at how he talks again about letting her go. And that is, there's something has to happen for Summer to be let go. Summer can't just be let go. If there's any way you can find it in your heart to please release her somehow, I don't know how you might do that. I mean, really simply, if someone has Summer, they just have to let her go. There's a million and one ways of doing that, but the act of letting Summer go, of releasing her, is really simple. But he has this idea there is a complication before Summer could be released or let go. If there's any way you can find it in your heart, release her somehow. I don't know how you might do that. Find it in your heart, have mercy, find a way of letting her go. So in Don's head, the act of letting Summer go is not a simple one. There is a complication, potentially a huge complication to overcome before Summer could be released and be back with her family or be back at church or anything like that. He then says, if we can just get her back and just please have mercy on her and us and her brothers. She's such a loving, good spirit. Present tense there. Please, please don't hurt her. Please let her come home. Quite interesting that when Don, in general, when he talks about Summer in present tense, he's talking in emotional terms. She has a hold of my heart. She's such a loving, good spirit. When it's past tense, it's her actions. She loved to dance. There was a song that she loved. There was the woman at church that she loved and liked and looked up to. Interesting. As if he still feels something in the present for her, but realizes the actions are not going to happen again. And in this section, the one that begins, my biggest fear is her being tormented or locked in a dungeon or basement or something, is, wow, scary. It has this phrase, she loved to be outside all the time. And that was unfortunately her downfall. What? Summer's had a downfall? I mean, what a strange word to use. Someone's downfall is their actions that they have taken that have resulted in bad things happening. So what is he trying to say here? Why does being outside again all the time be Summer's downfall? And why would your 5-year-old child, why would you consider right now, if they've been abducted or some harm's come to them, why would you talk about it as a downfall? Why would you put the blame on that person's actions or likes? A 5-year-old child, why would you say they had a downfall? That's pretty damn horrible. We have the proximity again, that Summer would kind of go missing, but she would always be close, is what he says. He says his biggest fear is that she's locked away and she loves the outdoors, which is fine. I do sort of understand what he's saying there, but he's worried that she's locked away and can't play with her puppy. She can't play with her puppy, not because she's locked away, but because she's nowhere near your house, Don. That's why she can't play with her puppy. What is going on here? Why don't you have realistic worries? Why do you have these strange worries? Really, really hated this bit. That my biggest fear is her being tormented or locked in a dungeon or basement or something. I mean, that's a pretty dark place to go to. And then he qualifies that. So for most of us, if we've got children, the thought of them being locked in a dungeon or basement or something would be horrible, absolutely horrible anyway, but only because she loved to be outside all the time. Not because, she'd be trapped or away from her family or not able to get out or probably petrified or scared. No, she just loved to be outside all the time. And that's why the biggest fear is about being locked in a dungeon or a basement or something. Now, this is really interesting. Something covers everything, but the two specific things he talks about are being locked in a dungeon or a basement. Both of those are underground. So why is his fear that she is underground? I'm really, really worried about that. I'm really worried about that whole section. He says, that's my greatest fear, that she's not able to do any of these things, or that she could possibly, I don't want to think about it. I don't want to think she's dead, but it's a possibility. So his greatest fear is that she's trapped inside because she loves being outside, but being dead is a possibility. Well, then wouldn't being dead be your greatest fear? What is the logic behind that? Why is your greatest fear she's locked in a basement or a dungeon and can't get outside with nature, but being dead is a possibility? So there you go. That's Don and Candus speaking, I think, a couple of weeks after Summer went missing 3 years ago. I said when we looked at missing people, let's look at what they talk about. Let's look at their tenses. Whoa. Loads of past tense, especially referring to Summer's actions, as if actions by Summer ain't going to happen again. Look for hidden time and events. I'm not seeing overly much of that, apart from in Candus's description of how Summer, or how she realised Summer was missing. And where are the concerns? Well, there are some concerns shown for Summer, but also concern for themselves as well. So what are my conclusions? Let's look at Candus first. Candus tries too hard to show she was a good mum. I don't think she was a good mum whatsoever. It's too important for her in her statements to convince us how nurturing she was, how careful she was around Summer, how wholesome Summer's existence was. Her story of Summer's disappearance isn't convincing. There's so much missed out. There's so much that happens without any reason there at all. Candus does not speak of what she thinks has happened, really, but she does use that past tense to refer to Summer a lot. But she does speak of Summer as a child, as a 5-year-old girl. Don talks about Summer on a grown-up level, or doing a child in an adult world, and also in physical terms around holding hands, her little hands pulling her up, and about her having hold of her heart. Don uses a lot of past tense to talk about Summer. Even when he's aware of it, he's said several times, I can't talk in past tense. People will get mad at me for talking in past tense. But he does use it a lot. It just seems to be very natural for him to talk about Summer in the past tense. And Don has a vivid idea of what could have happened to Summer. And that is abducted, enclosed, dark, underground, unable to go out. So in general, Summer did not have a good home life. That comes through loud and clear in the words. Both Don and Candus think that she's gone for good in their words. There's too much present tense to suggest that. Candus does appear to be covering up and telling a story around when she noticed that Summer had disappeared. And Don, especially, appears to have a very firm idea of what had happened. I'd love to know your thoughts. And did you spot anything that I didn't? You can get involved in the comments on this platform or get in touch on social media. All the links are in the show description. If you subscribe or follow this, then you'll get new episodes from Never a Truer Word, including ones on missing persons, which we do very regularly here on Never a Truer Word. You'll get those new episodes automatically when they're there. Don't forget, if you want to get them before anyone else, then you can become a member on YouTube or subscribe on Spotify. But if you don't do any of those, just press the like button or share it with someone who would be interested in hearing this, because that all helps get the word out. NeverATruerWord.com is the website where there are more podcasts, more videos. You can sign up for the monthly newsletter, get in touch on social media, and there's even a couple of books if you want to delve deeper into the words that people are saying. And we'll see you soon for something new from Never a Truer Word.